Good morning, and thank you for joining us for Coffee and Collaboration. Your host, Kimberly Winborn, will show you the power of proactive networking. Grab your coffee and let's get started.
Don't merely know thyself, be thyself. Authenticity. Today's subject, we are going to be talking about authenticity, and I'm joined by my business partner, James Branch, who is kind of going to be leading the conversation. And we really, at the end of the year, we were just talking about 2020 vision and goals and things for 2020 and some of the things that we can do to wrap up 2019 to achieve an excellent 2020. And one of the things that we were talking about is getting back to being authentic. Authenticity is the degree to which an individual's actions are congruent with their beliefs and desires, despite external pressures. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, because how can you be successful, attract the tribe that you want, target market, all of those things when you're, as they say, faking it till you make it? Because oftentimes, as a result of faking it till we make it, we end up becoming somebody other than ourselves, and then we're not happy in the end as well as successful. So authenticity. So James is going to kind of take over and tell us kind of some of the thoughts. You had some really great quotes and some thoughts around authenticity. And so I'm going to give you the floor to kind of engage this conversation today.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening today. And as Kim was going over a definition of what being authentic meant to her, and I did the same thing. I came up with one just a little bit different as I was looking through what is the meaning of being authentic. And it's not that mine is any better and hers likewise, but it's just a perception of what we both feel and internalize. And I just wanted to add this in and say that something that felt good to my heart was to be able to say to you that being authentic is not false or copied, genuine, being real, and representing one's true nature, who you are and your beliefs. Let your beliefs be known. Be true to yourself. So that's what being authentic to me means on a deep level when it comes from the heart. But to talk about a few points too, we both have mentioned being true to yourself, and that's very, very important. Being true to yourself, because everyone else is taken. Can't be anybody else well, but you can be you. And in the age that we live in, the digital age and technology, it is very easy to be someone else. They even have software where you can copy and be the voice and look like somebody else if you want to.
For sure.
But people today are hungry for the authentic you. They're hungry for you. They're looking for you. They're looking for real people to show up. And when you can do that, you're going to have the edge over your competition who's just trying to be like everybody else. So that's very important. Number one, I say, is be true to yourself. And number two is to look inward, look outward, look around, take time to think about what you do, how you do it, and your relationships, your strive to be better. We need to set aside time to do some deep thinking and analyze areas for improvement. And that can go a long way in our daily strive to be better. And if you're being yourself and you're improving self, it's only going to aid you in your quest to be better and let people know really who you are.
Yeah.
And I might also add that one other area that I really like is kindness and respect. And being human is really, really important. 3 things that we do. And the first one is to be kind, The second one is to be kind. And the third one, which is probably most difficult of all, when we're confronted with situations that we're not happy with, and when people do us in a way that, really sometimes make us angry and unhappy and we feel short, is still to be kind. And if you can do that, if you can practice that, it'll go a long way. And besides, there's nothing wrong with a little kindness, especially in the day and age that we live in today. Those are just some of the points that come to my mind, Kim.
Well, I loved all of them. And one of the things that happens, I think, James, when we aren't living out our authentic selves, we can, in the end, get kind of bitter. We can get jealous and envious of others. So many people, you were talking about digital age, so many people look to other people for who they should be, like you were saying. And one of the things that I like to say is don't just be your best, be your best. Don't focus on the people that are out here doing what you think is excellent, because your excellence factor is a personal relationship that you have with your clients, and there's only one you. There's no carbon copy of James. There's no carbon copy of any of the listeners. There's no carbon copy of me. So being unauthentic to yourself leaves so much room on the table for somebody else to filter in and take over something that could be yours, but because you're not being true to you, you're actually losing and missing the mark. You're losing those people that you were assigned to, as they say, or you were supposed to coach, mentor, work for, consult for, whatever it is as an entrepreneur. You were supposed to be their lifeline, but because you're trying to be somebody else, you miss the mark. And so many times, those people that we're trying to be are also trying to be somebody else. So we're looking at them as our guides, and they're also not being true to themselves. We can be anybody that we want to be, to your point, on social media and in this digital age. So I could be following someone who is catfishing someone else, as they say, or who's taking over the identity of someone else and not being true to themselves. And then I'm missing the mark. And I could just be me. Like, there is nothing more valuable and precious. And we always talk about your unique value proposition in business. There's nothing more valuable than us. There's nothing more valuable than singularly being you. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and ask you what your thoughts are there when it comes to that person who is not showing up authentically as themselves and becoming that bitter person or that not so kind person as a result of walking in the shoes of someone who they can never be. What are your thoughts on that?
The first thing that comes to mind to me is when you find yourself in that situation and you're becoming bitter and angry and things aren't going like you want them to go, you're going to have to find a way to focus on the here and now, live in the moment. And living in the moment, it's today. You can't think about tomorrow. You can't think about what happened just before the event, the meeting, but you got to live in that moment. And that's very critical because that's now and then. That's right now. And how people perceive you is real. So if you're in that negative space, if you're holding on to that, you can't really be you. And you got to remember why you're there, why you're doing what you're doing. And that moment in time matters more than anything else, what you do that very second and the second following. So that would be my response to that.
Yeah. And we were talking about how earlier when we were prepping for this, we were talking about how being true to yourself also goes beyond just your business, which is a big part of your business because it's going to help you to attract the people that you could potentially work with, et cetera. But we were talking about even how the little things that we don't think about, like how we show up to meetings, because you mentioned meetings a second ago, what we wear, you were talking about colors and all of these different things that oftentimes we hide behind certain colors because we're not bold enough, and we're scared to be who we are. So we hide behind certain colors, we hide behind certain books, certain things. We just hide because we're afraid to be who we are. And so I would love to expand on that from the perspective of showing up in a room as yourself. And like, so if you're a bright personality, but I've heard people say this, like, oh, I'm too over the top. And so you dumb down yourself because you feel like you're going to be too bold for people. Where there, to me, there's an audience that's looking for that bold person that you are. And so walking in a room and dumbing down who you are does that person a disservice. And so if you could speak to what you were saying about colors and how that spans and how important that is in the journey to authenticity, as well as how you show up.
When it comes to colors and branding yourself and the way you appear and look to other people, I think it's important to have an understanding, and it may take getting some assistance from professionals in that area who understand the psychological advantages of certain colors and how they interact on the eye and the brain. Those things are real, and you could very well be doing things that you think are the way to go. Is what seems to be working for other people, but it's not you. It doesn't work well for you. And if you don't know that, then you could be losing out on that non-verbal communication piece in the interaction of people and potential customers. So, the color of your website, the color of the blouse that you wear, the suit that you wear, even your hairstyle. And I'm not saying that you do things to please other people, but you also do things that bring out the real you. So so that people can identify with that person. That's who needs to show up in the room. It is you. So don't hold back on being yourself. It's so important on being you, and it'll go a long ways in letting people know who's in the room. And you can't really say the wrong thing to the right person. So you're meant to do business with the person that's right for you to do business with that day. But get the most out of it, is what I'm saying. Maximize your result, because we don't have endless amount of time on this earth. We have to take advantage of every moment. So to be your very best, just be you, be real, be authentic.
Yeah. And so for somebody who's listening, I was just thinking, so many people know that they aren't, but it's difficult because of the amount of work and time that they've put in to building their brand or just whatever. And so how does a person become that authentic person outside of, and be able to transition through that smoothly, in your opinion, without being concerned about, their business failing or losing relationships? Or should that be a concern or not? So what's your opinion on that?
For me, it kind of depends on how long you've been doing what you're doing. The IRS, I think after 7 years is considered maybe a hobby if you aren't making any money. So if you're in this thing and it's not hitting your goals, you need to take a quick look at, fast in a hurry, really, at what it is that you're doing. Because if you want it to be your way of enjoying life and living your dreams, then you got to examine how you are conducting business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think to add to that, I think one of the things is too, you have to be okay with being authentic. That's just the bottom line. You have to be okay with starting over and understanding that if you're not being true to the original vision, goal, plan, it could be working for you, It could be not working for you, but especially if it's not working for you, showing up as someone else, or it just doesn't feel like a happy place and you're miserable. You could be successful, but you're miserable. I think you have to be okay with saying, I need to do something different, and that be the first step in your authenticity journey. And being okay with what that next phase is for your life, showing up as who you're supposed to be, or who you're supposed to be. I think that's my thought on that. It may be difficult. It absolutely may be difficult, but it is sometimes the most difficult things are absolutely the necessary things, the things that we hide behind a shelf and run away from or put under a rock or what have you that we don't want to face. Mm-hmm. Those are oftentimes the main things that once we really pull them out and focus on them, really help us to propel forward. So yeah, I agree with you. And then I also think that people have to be okay with taking a step back in order to move forward, as they say, as that quote goes. Mm-hmm. Take a step back in order to move forward.
Right. And this is definitely when I met you a few years back now. And mm-hmm. I would definitely classify you as a authentic person. But when I think back here, almost every authentic person that I ever met has always been open to new ideas. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean they're going to do it, but they're open. And they live by a code, and there's nobody better than you that I can think of right now, but who has a code of values and morals that are constant. You're very, very consistent from 5-6 years ago to today. It hadn't changed who you are. And that's amazing when it comes to authentic people, is that they are very, very real. And they may even, and they probably would, I know you would, if they get off course too much, their life is not good. They're not happy. Mm-hmm. And I can see that in your own life. And also in being authentic too is listening. I see you all the time listening to people, taking on their ideas and embracing them and looking for ways that it may even help what you're doing, and at the same time help them get better. So that's very critical in being authentic, is being open-minded and open to new ideas, not looking at it as criticisms, but steps that may provide a way to improve what you're doing and improve on the life of others, because sometimes the change in you can be a positive change and lead for other people to take up and practice those ideas and concepts.
Very true. I agree. And I think being around people who are authentic helps for a person to be okay with being authentic themselves. And I know this is a word that people are using a lot lately. You got to be authentic. You got to be authentic. And I've heard conversations where it's like, well, what is authenticity? Well, why is that like a buzzword lately? Well, the reason being, like we said earlier, so many people are living vicariously through others that they began to assume their lifestyle or what projects or try to project that lifestyle when it's not really true to them. And then if you look at the numbers of people who are committing suicide, who are depressed, who have anxiety, all of these different things, and you see a correlation between not being authentic or not being authentic. You look at some of these Hollywood superstars, for an example, who we think are happy and successful and, got everything going for them. And then you find out that they've committed suicide or something like that. Well, that's a sure sign of a dichotomy in life where it appears to be one way while it's actually another. And so it's super important to get back to being authentic, because as these numbers and these statistics come in, it's alarming, the suicide rate, especially among young people who are trying to live their lives for other people and not being authentic to themselves. And then if they are being authentic to themselves, not being accepted by other people. It's such a topic right now and a buzz topic right now because I think of the climate. And so we have to be okay with being authentic, but on top of that, we have to be around people. You know how they talk about your top 5 people that you're around and how you're the culmination of their success or failure. We have to be around people who encourage us to be authentic so that we are motivated, inspired. We have our own personal cheerleaders that say, yeah, it's okay to be you. It's okay to have this idea. Yeah, let me help you think that through and push you and encourage you. We have to be around people that will do that because sometimes it is difficult to make those transitions. And so I wanted to add to that I know that it can be difficult, but it's necessary as we close out 2019 and want to be successful in 2020 and beyond. We have to get back to the core of us and our unique values so that we can move accordingly. And I'm going to tell you, James, I have often struggled sometimes with being authentic because I have so many ideas and visions and, different things like that it's overwhelming for people. And, they're like, they say I'm busy, or they are like, well, how do you do all of this? It's almost a negative to do more than one thing in life. And, sometimes for me, it's been like me questioning myself, am I doing the right things? And I always have to go back to the fact that if God gave me these ideas and these thoughts and this responsibility to do this, that, or the other, why would he do that if it wasn't for me? So I have to remind myself and surround myself with people who will remind me that you're not alone. Like I was talking about a moment ago, you're not alone. There are people in this world who are empire builders. There are people in this world who do more than one thing, and it is okay. But if I'm around people that continue to say, oh, you're doing too much, then that's not going to feed into me getting to the next level for myself. And so I just want to add that it can be difficult depending on who you're around. So it's important to be around people that will encourage that authenticity, that will, help to inspire and motivate you.
Yeah, so true, so true. And my final thoughts would be the advantages. I mean, they definitely outweigh not doing it at all. And when you can be authentic, it's going to help your business. It's going to help you. It's going to set you above the competition. It's going to help build your identity, your image. It's going to make you more of a talk piece in the room, in the community, because people are going to be able to identify with you. It gives your business substance. It makes your service or product stand out even more because people, they feel like they're getting a part of you, and it allows them to relate to you or your business. And it helps them understand what you're doing, what you are about, and they feel good about that. And that can only be good for you and your business. Those are so important. And then not only that, that adds quality to your service or product. When people feel like it's authentic, they probably don't even mind your pricing if it's a little bit more. None of those things matter because they're really buying into you. And it encourages people to get involved with what you're doing, which is important because you want them to share your service, your product, your vision, your ideas when it becomes a talk piece, when you're not around. And it circulates, that word of mouth advertising that we talk about, where people are talking about and sharing what you do. Those are the advantages of being authentic.
Yeah, I love that. It builds trust. It builds trust. And so this has been our show, Coffee and Collaborations. Make sure to listen to us. We launch our shows every Monday at 7 a.m. So you can always go to the website, www.coffeeandcollaborations.com/podcast. You can check us out on Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, we would love to continue to hear from you, find out what you want to hear more about. But let's be authentic, guys. Let's go out, be a light, be inspired, encourage others, and show up in the rooms, like James said, being who we are, because as a result of that, we'll build trust, we'll build likeness, we'll build longevity in our businesses and in our brand, which is important as entrepreneurs. So did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's it. I believe if you just get a few things out of this conversation today, you're off to a winning start for 2020.
Awesome. You all have a great rest of the week.
You've been listening to Coffee and Collaboration, the #1 networking skill building show for people who want to take their skills to the next level. Please join us each Monday at 7 a.m. Eastern and 6 a.m. Central